The Sympathizer Episode 2, titled Good Little Asian, chronicled the aftermath of Episode 1's tragic cliffhanger ending. The Sympathizer's cast is led by recent Academy Award winner Robert Downey Jr. as Claude, an eccentric yet incredibly resourceful CIA operative, who is just one of the 4 characters that RDJ plays in the series. His second character, Professor Hammer, is an Asian American studies professor at a college in Los Angeles who used to teach the captain, Hoa Schwanda. The captain was one of Professor Hammer's most prized students before the events of the Sympathizer take place. The Sympathizer Episode 2 also introduces Sandra Oh's character Sophia Mori, who works in Professor Hammer's office. RDJ also appears as the CIA operative Claude in the Sympathizer Episode 2, although Claude and Professor Hammer do not meet in the episode. Following the shocking conclusion of the Sympathizer Episode 1, the captain must continue to keep tabs on the general, Ton Lu, in the United States for Man, Duane Nguyen, and the Viet Cong. Despite the captain nearly dying in the artillery strike at the end of the first episode, he does not question the attack in his covert communications with Man. Set in the 1975, The Sympathizer is a work of historical fiction that is based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel of the same name written by Vietnamese-American professor Viet Thanh Nguyen. The HBO limited series will run for 7-hour-length episodes from April to May 2024, with its series finale premiering on May 26, 2024. The acclaimed series currently has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87% and is already being heralded as one of 2024's must-watch miniseries. The series was created by Don McKellar and Park Chan-wook, the celebrated writer and director of Oldboy, 2003, The Handmaiden, 2016, and Decision to Leave, 2022. The captain and Bond make it to the United States. The captain sends a coded letter to Man back in Vietnam. The captain writing a letter in the Sympathizer Episode 2. The Sympathizer Episode 2 begins with the captain and Bond, Fred Nguyen, driving through the desert of the American West. The captain drives through Oklahoma and makes a stop in Texas where he purchases cornstarch in order to send a coded letter to Man back in Vietnam. At the end of the Sympathizer Episode 1, it was unclear whether Bond and the captain made it to the American airplane during the artillery strike, but Episode 2 confirms that they were able to make it on the plane at the last second. Bond is traumatized from losing his wife and his young son during the attack and is clearly still deeply affected by it in the United States. The captain sends a coded letter back to Man using the book Asian Communism and the Oriental Mode of Destruction, on understanding and defeating the Marxist threat to Asia. Man, who received a promotion by the Viet Cong and is still stationed in Vietnam, uses the same book to relay cryptic messages back to the captain in the United States. While Man uses rice starch, the Capitan uses cornstarch based on their geographical differences. The captain would write the page number, the line number, and the word number in a cornstarch-based liquid in the spaces underneath the lines of his letters, which Man would be able to discover using an iodine solution. 7. The general and the captain arrive at refugee camp in Arkansas. The general begins to suspect there is a spy among them. The captain and the general in the Sympathizer Episode 2. The Sympathizer Episode 2 jumps back in time 5 weeks before the captain and Bond make it to Texas when the general and the plane occupants make it to a refugee camp in Arkansas. It's revealed that Bond had to bury his wife and child in Guam before the plane reached its final landing zone at a refugee camp in Arkansas. While at the refugee camp, the general starts to realize he is losing the faith of his supporters in South Vietnam, and several mothers of fallen soldiers attack him. This leads the general to suspect that a sympathizer among them has been working against him, although he has no idea that it's the captain. 6. The captain reunites with his old college professor in Los Angeles. Professor Hammer gives the captain an unusual assignment. Robert Downey Jr. as Professor Hammer in The Sympathizer. Once the captain arrives in Los Angeles to scout for a place for the general and his family to live, one of the first things he does is reunite with his Asian American Studies college professor, Professor Hammer. The eccentric professor, the second character played by Robert Downey Jr., is excited to see the captain, although his true name has yet to be revealed. It's in Professor Hammer's office that the captain meets Sophia Mori for the first time, who listens in as the captain is interviewed by a college student for the college newspaper. Professor Hammer invites the captain to a party and asks him to write about what makes him both Oriental and Occidental. 5. The captain tells Sophia Mori a shocking story at Professor Hammer's party. This leads to the two of them becoming intimate and starting a fling. Sandra Oh in The Sympathizer Episode 2. The captain arrives at Professor Hammer's party wearing a particular suit that Professor Hammer had lent to him in his office. The Capitaine gets to know Sophia Mori better at the party after reciting his elaborate answer to Professor Hammer's prompt aloud to his party guests, explaining what parts of him he believes to be Oriental and Occidental. Sophia Mori hands out deviled eggs at the party, which triggers an obscure, unexplained flashback for the captain that is sure to be expanded on later in the season. As the party goes on, Sophia Mori establishes to Professor Hammer and the group that while she may be of Japanese descent, she is an American who was born in Gardena, California. Sophia is intrigued by the captain and claims to see through his teacher's pet facade, although she can't quite place what exactly it is that the captain is concealing. The captain goes on to explain a wild story from his childhood in which he pleasured himself with a dead squid. Sophia Mori makes fun of the captain for his bizarre tale but ultimately ends up sparking an affair with the captain, who takes her to the apartment he shares with Bon.